The following video is sponsored by NordVPN. Stick around till the end for a special offer. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus were released in 2016 and were quite famous, or rather infamous, for removing the headphone jack. But this wasn't the only change. They refined the design of the iPhone 6 and 6S, whilst making major headway in the camera department as well as other various improvements. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're revisiting the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Apple recently stopped selling them on their website, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're not worth buying. And so today we're asking the question, is the iPhone 7 still worth buying? The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus did a lot right, but I feel like a lot of it was overshadowed by the removal of the headphone jack. So to start with that, there's no headphone jack on this phone. Most phones nowadays don't have headphone jacks. Personally, as sad as it is, I don't really consider it to be a large factor in buying a phone anymore. Not that I actually think you should buy the iPhone 7, kind of. It's always difficult to give a cut and dry answer as everyone's situation is always going to be so different, but at least generally I'd recommend getting the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus over the iPhone 7, as those phones are a bit better and they're still being sold by Apple and are going to be supported for a little longer. That said, if you don't want the 8 or can only afford the 7, the iPhone 7 is still super solid in 2019. Apple just released a new cheaper iPad option with the same specs as the iPhone 7, as well as in, I believe, June they released a new iPod with again same specs as the iPhone 7, so I wouldn't consider this old hardware per se. Right now on iOS 13, the iPhone 7 performs well. It's got a decent camera, and if you like the home button, the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus isn't a bad pickup. And again, while I'd say the 8 is the better buy, the iPhone 7 is more than enough for most people. So there's your answer. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are worth buying, just not as worth it as the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. But let's back up here and go over the phone a little bit more in depth, starting with the design. The iPhone 7 features the last aluminum enclosure on an iPhone with a much cleaner look than the iPhone 6 or 6S. The phone comes in a multitude of colors: jet black, matte black, silver, gold, and rose gold. I've always personally loved the jet black in particular. Apple hasn't had any phone quite like it since, and I really miss it. The matte black is quite slick too, and I prefer it over the space grays Apple has become accustomed to. The front of the phone looks pretty standard for an older iPhone. The iPhone 7 has a 4.7-inch display, whereas the 7 Plus has 5.5 inches. The displays look great thanks to them being Retina, and while they won't match the newer iPhone 10 or 11 Pro, they're about right on par with the iPhone XR or 11. Under the screen you have the home button with Touch ID, and it's quite good for what it is. This was the first time Apple used a capacitive home button, which means that it isn't actually a physical button. When you put pressure on it, it'll mimic a click by vibrating. This might sound a bit weird, but I can assure you it feels fairly natural, and it's quite a bit faster than the older home buttons. Plus, less moving parts means less breakable parts, and that's always good. The regular iPhone 7 looks pretty similar to what we've seen in the past from the 6S, being 12 megapixels and having the ability to shoot up to 4K at 30 frames per second. The iPhone 7 Plus, however, adds a second telephoto lens, which allows for 2x zoom and portrait mode photos that blur the background behind the subject. I'll come back to those cameras, but first, the selfie camera. The iPhone 7 selfie cam was actually quite a big improvement over the 6S, with 7 megapixels, and it can take some selfies I would equate to being good enough. It's not going to blow your mind, but for Snapchat or whatever, it's going to be just fine. Here's some video from the iPhone 7 Plus, and as you can see, it doesn't look too bad. This is 4K, and it's good enough. You're definitely not going to have any complaints from video, at least, with the iPhone 7. If you're torn on whether you should get the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, the telephoto lens on the 7 Plus really shouldn't be the deciding factor. It's nice to have, but if it's the biggest thing you're worried about, you should really go up to at least the iPhone 8 Plus, as that phone brings quite a few telephoto lens improvements over the 7 Plus, such as better portrait photo options. But enough from me, now I'll put up some photos from the iPhone 7 for you to see for yourself. I think it's safe to say the camera on the iPhone 7 is good enough. You're not going to have any problems with it, it'll take a good photo, and while it's not as mind-blowing as the iPhone 11 Pro or anything, it'll do the job. Battery life is an interesting talking point for the iPhone 7, simply because it's going to vary so much device to device. These phones are 3 years old now, which means that batteries will have degraded, especially if a phone has been used pretty heavily throughout its lifetime. The 7 Plus has always been pretty beastly in battery life, so if you have one of those, you shouldn't be too worried, but the smaller iPhone 7 never has been great in the first place. So if you get one of these, you might need to keep a charger nearby. Spec-wise, the iPhone 7 is in pretty good shape with the A10 Fusion chip and 2 GB of RAM. The 7 Plus is the same except with 3 GB of RAM, which I suppose is a reason to get the Plus over the 7, but again, if you're looking for speed, you should really be looking at the iPhone 8 Plus or the iPhone XR. But the iPhone 7 feels good on iOS 13. It isn't going to blow you away anymore, but it can more than handle pretty much any task you throw at it, and you shouldn't find any issues. Social media, gaming, I mean, you name it. This phone isn't slow, and probably won't be for another year or two at least. If you have an iPhone 7 right now and you're doing well, I don't think you need to upgrade unless you really want to. But I don't think you should buy the iPhone 7 anymore, at least not in comparison to the iPhone 8 or XR. The iPhone 7 varies in price online, but I think it's pretty easy to find one for around $200 used or refurbished, and that's not a bad deal at all. But for not much more, you can go up to a used iPhone 8 if you'd like, or if you're looking to buy new for not much more, you can get a new iPhone 8, and that phone just is going to last longer. But if you're on a stricter budget, the iPhone 7 is a great phone, and hey, you might even prefer the aluminum over the glass and stuff like that. I really think this is one of the best looking phones Apple's put out in a long time. If you'd like to see my full iPhone buying guide, I'll link it in the description below. You know what else is in the description below? A link to nordvpn.org/91tech. Something you should definitely check out. Okay, not my best transition ever, but I'll take it. NordVPN is consistently rated as being one of the best VPNs out there, and for good reason. It allows you to connect to over 5,500 servers throughout 60 different countries worldwide without any data logging. NordVPN actually cares about your privacy, even if nobody else does. If you're trying to avoid censorship in a country like China, NordVPN is the answer. If you're trying to access even a different Netflix, NordVPN works for that. I've personally been using NordVPN for quite a while now to connect to American Netflix because there's some good shows down there. With NordVPN, you can stay safe online with all of your devices from Android, iOS, to Mac, to Windows, you name it. If you use the top link in the description and coupon code 91tech, you can get 70% off plus a free additional month. That's only $3.49 a month for a VPN. You're essentially paying for one more Starbucks coffee per month to keep your information safe and private online. That seems like a pretty good deal to me. Again, top link in the description, coupon code 91tech. Huge thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video, and I hope you go check them out. To conclude here, I've always liked the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. They are some of the best designed iPhones in my opinion. The matte and jet black just can't be beat. They're pretty decent value right now, and if you're looking to pick one up either used or new, I don't think it's a bad choice. Sure, there are other phones that'll be a better bang for your buck, but the iPhone 7 is going to do well for you, and it's got at least another couple years of iOS support. It's a well-built phone, and I always enjoy using it whenever I do a video on it. But with that, I'm pretty much done here. Do you have an iPhone 7 or 7 Plus? Are you looking to get one? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found this video helpful or interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech. Another thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91tech, and I will see you all next time.